Here is something most people never get told in a rushed appointment. The fastest way to bring a high blood sugar down is usually not to rip carbohydrates out of your life. It is to add the right foods back in. I want you to sit with how strange that sounds for a second. You have probably been told that bread is the enemy, that rice is the enemy, that fruit is sugar in disguise. And then you cut all of it, you feel miserable, you feel deprived, and your morning number on the meter barely moves. There is a reason for that, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why. And you are going to have 10 specific foods plus the precise way to use each one that go to work on the actual machinery underneath your blood sugar. Not 10 foods to avoid, 10 foods to add. And I am going to be honest with you about which ones have strong science behind them, and which ones are more of a gentle nudge, because I am not here to sell you a miracle. I am here to give you the real tools. Stick with me, because the single most powerful one is not even on most of these lists, and I have saved it for a specific spot so it actually lands. Let me explain what is actually happening inside you, because once you see it, everything I tell you afterwards stops being random tips and starts being a strategy. The hormone at the center of this entire story is insulin. Think of insulin as a key. After you eat the sugar from your food, glucose shows up in your bloodstream. Insulin is the key that unlocks your cells so that glucose can leave the blood and go inside, where your body actually uses it for energy. That is the whole job. Sugar in the blood, insulin unlocks the cell, sugar goes in, blood sugar comes back down. Simple. Now here is where it breaks. When your cells have been flooded with sugar and insulin over and over again for years, they get tired of listening. The key still turns, but the lock has gone stiff. Insulin knocks louder and louder, and the cell answers slower and slower. That stiffness has a name: insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the engine under most high blood sugar, most prediabetes, and most type 2 diabetes. So what does your body do when the cells stop listening? It makes more insulin. Your pancreas works overtime, pumping out more and more of the hormone, trying to force the door. For a while it works, your blood sugar looks okay on paper. But under the surface, your insulin levels are climbing, your cells are getting more resistant, and eventually the pancreas can't keep up. That is usually the moment the number on your meter starts creeping up, and somebody mentions the word diabetes. Now, here is why cutting carbs alone disappoints so many people. Yes, if you remove carbohydrates, less sugar shows up in your blood, the number can drop. But you have not fixed the stiff lock, you have just stopped putting anything through the door. The insulin resistance is still sitting there, so the day you eat a normal meal, a birthday, a holiday, a sandwich at lunch, the spike comes roaring back, because the underlying problem was never addressed. You were managing the symptom, not the machine. What we actually want to do is two things at once. We want to slow down how fast sugar arrives, so your pancreas never has to panic. And we want to make your cells listen again to loosen that stiff lock, so insulin can do its job at a normal dose. That second part is the part that lasts. That is what people mean, loosely, when they talk about improving insulin sensitivity. Every food I am about to give you does at least one of three things. I call them the three levers. Lever 1, slow the rise. These foods physically slow how fast sugar gets into your blood, usually through soluble fiber, fat, protein, or acid. Flatter curve, smaller spike, calmer pancreas. Lever 2, calm the fire. Insulin resistance is fed by low-grade chronic inflammation. Certain foods quiet that inflammation down, and as the fire cools, the cells start hearing insulin a little better. Lever 3, sharpen the signal. A handful of foods seem to work right at the cell, helping the insulin signal land harder so the same amount of insulin does more work. Keep those three levers in your head: slow the rise, calm the fire, sharpen the signal, and I will tag every single food with which lever it pulls. You do not have to do all 10 this week, you stack them in over time. Let's start. Food 1, non-starchy greens eaten first. I am opening with the one almost nobody puts on these lists, and I am opening with it on purpose, because it is the cheapest, most available, most overlooked tool you have. And it is not really a food trick at all, it is an order trick. The food is simple: non-starchy vegetables, leafy greens, broccoli, peppers, zucchini, cucumber, a big salad, a side of green beans. But the magic is not just eating them, it is eating them first. Here is what happens when you start a meal with a plate of fibrous vegetables before you touch the rice or the bread. That fiber forms a loose mesh in your stomach and the top of your small intestine. When the carbohydrate arrives a few minutes later, it has to filter through that mesh slowly instead of dumping all at once. Same meal, same carbs, but the sugar trickles in instead of flooding in. Researchers have measured this. Eating your vegetables and protein before your starch can meaningfully flatten the after-meal glucose spike compared to eating the exact same food in the reverse order. Let that sink in because it costs you nothing. You are not removing a single thing from your plate. You are just changing the order you put the fork in your mouth. How to use it. Before every meal that has a starch in it, eat a serving of non-starchy vegetables first. A side salad, a bowl of broccoli, sautéed greens, then your protein and fat. Then the rice, the potato, the bread comes last. Give it a couple of minutes. That sequence alone changes the shape of your whole meal. And notice, I have not even given you a special food yet, and you already have a free tool. Hold on to that, because I am going to layer the next 9 on top of it. Food 2, vinegar before carbs. This is the one with the fastest visible effect. On a glucose meter of anything in this video, if you own a meter, you can watch this one work tonight. The active ingredient is acetic acid. That is the sharp part of any vinegar, including apple cider vinegar. It does 2 useful things at the same time. First, it slows how quickly your stomach empties. So the carbohydrates in your meal arrive in your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. Second, it appears to help your muscles take up glucose and use it, which nudges that stiff lock open a little. And the research here is real. A small, well-known study from a team led by Dr. Carol Johnston at Arizona State University found that taking vinegar before a high-carbohydrate meal improved insulin sensitivity and blunted the post-meal blood sugar rise in people who were insulin resistant. Later reviews pooling many trials have come to a similar conclusion. Vinegar with a meal tends to reduce the post-meal glucose and insulin response. It is not a drug. The effect varies person to person, but for something that costs a few dollars a bottle, it punches well above its weight. How to use it? 1 tablespoon of vinegar, diluted in a tall glass of water, about 10 to 15 minutes, before a meal that contains carbohydrates. And I want to be firm about 2 things. 1, always dilute it. Never shoot it straight. The acid is rough on tooth enamel and the lining of your throat, and a straw helps protect your teeth. 2, if you take any medication that lowers blood sugar, talk to your doctor before you make this a habit, because vinegar plus that medication can stack and push your sugar lower than you expect. I will come back to that medication point at the end, because it matters for several of these foods. Food 3, lentils and beans. This food proves the entire thesis of this video, so pay attention. Lentils are a carbohydrate, and lentils will help lower your blood sugar response. How does a carb lower your blood sugar? Because of how it is built. A lentil is a slow carbohydrate wrapped in soluble fiber and a real dose of plant protein. That structure means the glucose inside it is released into your blood slowly and steadily over hours instead of all at once. Compare that to white rice or a white potato, which hit fast and hard. Swap one for the other and you have completely changed the curve without eating less. There is a bonus here too. Legumes carry what researchers call a second meal effect. A bowl of lentil soup at lunch can leave your blood sugar steadier into the evening, hours later, at a meal you have not even eaten yet. Clinically, trading refined starches for legumes a few times a week is one of the more reliable, well-documented ways to nudge down your 3-month average blood sugar, the number your doctor calls A1C. How to use it? Aim for half a cup to a cup of cooked lentils, chickpeas, black beans, or kidney beans a few times a week, used in place of white rice or potato, not in addition to it. Soup, stew, a cold salad with olive oil and a splash of that vinegar from a minute ago. Cheap, filling, and they stretch a meal further than almost anything in your kitchen. Food 4, oats and barley, the beta-glucan foods. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Oats? Oats are a carb. You just told me carbs spike me. Stay with me, because this is exactly the nuance that the cut everything crowd misses. Oats and barley contain a specific kind of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. When it meets water in your gut, beta-glucan turns into a thick, viscous gel, almost like a soft slime, and that gel slows the digestion and absorption of the carbohydrate it is traveling with. The sugar releases gently. Beta-glucan is one of the few food compounds with strong enough evidence that health authorities have allowed official claims about it for cholesterol, and the same viscosity also helps flatten the glucose curve. The catch, and this is where people sabotage themselves, is the form. Instant flavored oatmeal packets, loaded with sugar, behave almost like candy. Steel cut or thick rolled oats, cooked plain, behave completely differently. Same grain. Opposite effect. The less processed, the slower the release. How to use it? Choose steel cut or old-fashioned rolled oats over instant. Cook them plain and add your own flavor. cinnamon, berries, a spoon of nuts or seeds. Pearl barley is fantastic tossed into soups and salads. And here is a stacking trick. Stir chia or ground flax into your oats and add a handful of nuts. Food 5. Chia and ground flax seeds. We are halfway through, and so far every food has been pulling lever 1, slowing the rise. These tiny seeds pull 2 levers at once, which is why they earn their spot. If you have ever watched chia sit in liquid and turn into a pudding, you have literally seen how it works inside you. Chia and ground flax are among the richest sources of soluble fiber you can buy. In your stomach, they form that same thick gel, and the gel wraps around the carbohydrates and slows their absorption. Slow, steady sugar release. No spike, no crash, no shaky, hungry feeling an hour later. That is lever 1. But they also carry a plant-based omega-3 fat called ALA, which helps calm the low-grade inflammation that sits underneath insulin resistance. That is lever 2, cooling the fire so your cells start hearing insulin again. 2 jobs, 1 tablespoon. How to use it? 1 to 2 tablespoons a day. Stir chia into yogurt, drop it into a glass of water with a squeeze of lemon, or blend it into a smoothie. With flax, use it ground, not whole. Whole flax seeds often pass straight through you undigested, so you get almost none of the benefit. Give chia about 10 minutes to gel before you drink it, and drink plenty of water alongside, because all that fiber needs liquid to move comfortably through you. Food 6, berries. Quick gut check before this one, because I promise to be honest with you, and I want to flag something. A lot of people with rising blood sugar are terrified of fruit. Fruit is just sugar, they say, so they cut all of it. And then they wonder why they feel deprived and miserable and their numbers still aren't great. Here is the more useful truth. Not all fruit behaves the same, and berries are the ones that behave the best. Berries are low in total sugar, high in fiber, and absolutely loaded with plant compounds called polyphenols. Specifically the deep purple-red ones called anthocyanins. The fiber slows the small amount of sugar that is there. And the polyphenols appear to support better insulin sensitivity and bring an anti-inflammatory effect. Lever 1 and lever 2 again. So a bowl of berries behaves nothing like a glass of orange juice or a banana, even though all 3 get filed under fruit in your head. How to use it? A cup of berries, fresh or frozen, as your default fruit. Frozen is just as good as fresh and far cheaper. Keep a bag in the freezer. Drop them on your oats. Stir them into plain yogurt. Eat them instead of a sugary dessert. And pair them with some fat or protein, a few nuts, a spoon of yogurt, to flatten the curve even more. We are 6 foods in, and notice the pattern. I keep telling you to pair and add, never to cut. Hold that thought, because the next 4 are the ones that work on the deeper problem, the inflammation and the signal itself. Food 7, fatty fish. This food does not work by slowing your meal down at all. It goes after the deeper reason. I told you insulin resistance is fed by chronic low-grade inflammation. This interferes with the insulin signal at the cell surface. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring are loaded with 2 specific omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA. These are among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds we know of. They help quiet the inflammatory signaling. They support healthier cell membranes, and that gives the insulin receptor a better chance to do its job. The clearest, strongest benefit of fatty fish is for inflammation, triglycerides, and heart health. The blood sugar benefit is the bonus. How to use it? Aim for 2 servings a week, each about the size of your palm. Wild salmon, mackerel, sardines, herring. Bake it, grill it, or and this is the budget hack, buy it canned. Canned sardines are cheap and nutrient-dense. Toss them on a salad, mash them on whole grain toast, or eat them straight from the tin. Food 8. Extra virgin olive oil and walnuts. I am pairing these because they belong together. They are the backbone of the Mediterranean pattern. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fat. Walnuts bring polyunsaturated fat, omega-3, fiber, and protein. Both do 2 things. First, when you add this kind of fat to a carbohydrate, it slows the whole meal down. The glucose climbs gently instead of spiking. Second, over time, this style of fat is associated with better insulin sensitivity and healthier blood vessels. Protecting them matters enormously for your long-term health. People still flinch at fat because of decades of fat is bad messaging. That pushed a whole generation toward fat-free products secretly packed with sugar. Let's put that to rest. The right fats, in sensible amounts, are some of your best allies here. How to use it? Use extra virgin olive oil as your main cooking and dressing fat. Drizzle it over vegetables or build your salad dressing from it. Keep a small handful of walnuts, about a quarter cup, as your default snack instead of crackers or a cookie. Keep them raw or dry roasted. And the golden rule, use nuts to replace a processed snack, not to pile on top of one. Healthy habits are about adding what helps. Food 9, plain Greek yogurt and fermented foods. This one brings in a player we have not talked about yet, your gut. The trillions of bacteria living in your digestive tract have a real, measurable influence on inflammation and on how your body handles sugar. A gut microbiome that is out of balance tends to fan the inflammatory fire we have been trying to cool all video. Plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt and fermented foods, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, plain live culture yogurt, feed that gut ecosystem with beneficial bacteria. On top of that, Greek yogurt is dense with protein, and protein slows a meal's sugar release and keeps you full, so you are not reaching for something sweet an hour later. Fermented dairy in particular has been linked in observational studies with a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, though we should hold that loosely because association is not proof. The one trap, and it is a big one, is sweetened flavored yogurt. A fruit yogurt can carry as much sugar as a dessert. That flips it from a tool into a problem. How to use it: choose plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt and sweeten it yourself with berries, cinnamon, and a spoon of chia. Add a small serving of a fermented vegetable, sauerkraut or kimchi, a few times a week. Read the label and look at the sugar line. If it is high, put it back. Food 10, eggs and the protein-first breakfast. I saved this one for last among the foods because it quietly fixes the meal that wrecks the most people: breakfast. Here is the problem. The classic breakfast, cereal, toast, a pastry, a glass of juice, is close to pure fast carbohydrate, eaten first thing on an empty stomach. It is almost engineered to spike you. And a spike that early sets the tone for your entire day, because the crash that follows it sends you hunting for more sugar by mid-morning. A whole egg, yolk included, is almost pure protein and fat with virtually no carbohydrate, so on its own it barely moves your blood sugar at all. But the real prize is something called the second meal effect again. When you start your day with protein and fat instead of fast carbs, you walk into lunch with calmer, steadier numbers and a smaller spike there too. One good decision in the morning pays you back all the way to the afternoon. And yes, for years people were scared off the yolk. For most people, the bigger danger was never the egg, it was the sugary cereal that replaced it. How to use it: 2 or 3 whole eggs in the morning. Scramble them, boil a batch for the week, fold in spinach. And now bring it full circle. Put greens on the side, add half an avocado or a drizzle of olive oil, a few berries, and you have built a near-perfect blood sugar breakfast out of the foods in this very video. Before I tell you about the people I see this work for, I want to hand you 2 bonus tools because they are not foods exactly, but they make every food on this list work harder. Bonus lever 1. The flavor levers cinnamon and fenugreek. These 2 get a lot of hype, and I want to give you the honest version. Cinnamon, and specifically Ceylon cinnamon, the milder true cinnamon, contains polyphenols that behave a little like insulin and may help your cells grip glucose. Fenugreek seeds carry a soluble fiber that slows your stomach and an amino acid that may help insulin release. Here is the honest part. The research on both is genuinely mixed. Some studies show a meaningful drop in fasting glucose, others show very little. So treat these as a low-cost, low-risk bonus, not as the thing you build your whole plan around. I would rather underpromise and have you trust me. Bonus lever 2, move the sugar. This is the most underrated tool in the entire conversation. Your muscles are the biggest sugar sponge in your body, and when you contract them, they pull glucose out of your blood without needing much insulin at all. So, a 10 to 15-minute walk after your biggest meal can blunt that meal's spike dramatically. You do not need a gym. You need to not sit down immediately after you eat. Walk the dog, do the dishes, stroll the block. Pair the food levers with this movement lever. Let me make this concrete with the kind of pattern I see again and again. A composite picture of how this tends to go. Picture someone in their early 60s, recently retired, whose fasting number had been climbing. The instinct is always the same: panic and try to cut everything. Instead, the approach we have been talking about is the opposite. You add greens before meals, eggs and olive oil for breakfast instead of cereal, lentils swapped in for white rice, walnuts instead of the afternoon cookie, fatty fish twice a week, a short walk after dinner, berries and plain yogurt instead of dessert. Nobody starved. They ate more food, just the right food, in the right order, with a walk on top. And working alongside their own doctor, the trend bent in the right direction. I need to draw one clear, bright line, and please do not skip past it. If you take medication for your blood sugar, especially insulin or one of the older pills in the sulfonylurea family, these foods can lower your blood sugar fast enough that your existing dose may suddenly be too much. And too much medication can drop your blood sugar dangerously low. That is not a reason to avoid these foods. It is a reason to bring them in with your doctor watching, so they can adjust your medication down as your body improves instead of you ending up over-medicated. So here's the rule. Do not stop or change any prescription on your own. None of this is medical advice for your specific situation. I do not know you, your labs, or your history. Bring this list to your next appointment. Tell your doctor you want to add these foods and ask them to monitor your numbers and adjust your medication as needed. That is how you get the benefit and stay safe. The goal is for you and your doctor to walk the dose down together as the food does its work, never to go it alone. Let's turn all of this into something you can actually start with in the next 24 hours. 5 steps. Do not try to do all 10 foods tomorrow. You will burn out. Stack them in. 1. Tomorrow morning, swap the cereal or toast for 2 or 3 whole eggs with greens on the side and a drizzle of olive oil. That single change steadies your blood sugar for the whole day. 2. At your biggest meal tomorrow, eat your vegetables first, your protein and fat next, and your starch last. Costs nothing, changes everything. 3. Before that same meal, take 1 tablespoon of vinegar in a full glass of water, 10 to 15 minutes ahead. If you're on blood sugar medication, clear it with your doctor first. 4. This week, swap white rice or white potato for lentils or beans at least twice and put fatty fish on the menu 2 nights. 5. After your biggest meal each day, take a 10-minute walk. Don't sit down right away. That's your starting line. Next week, add the chia, the berries, the yogurt, the walnuts, the cinnamon. Layer them in. You are not removing the foods you love. You are surrounding them with foods that protect you. Now, everything we did today works during the day and after your meals, but a huge number of you have told me the same strange thing. Your highest reading of the entire day is first thing in the morning before you have eaten a single bite. You fasted all night and your sugar went up. That feels impossible, and it is one of the most frustrating things in this whole condition. There is a specific reason your liver does that while you sleep. It has a name, and there is a way to quiet it down. This video is for general education and is not medical advice. I am not your doctor. Talk to a qualified healthcare professional before changing your diet or medication, especially if you take medication for blood sugar. I made a video that breaks down exactly what is happening overnight and how to wake up to a lower number. I will put it right here on the screen. Go watch that one next. And if this was useful, do me one small favor. Hit subscribe and leave a comment telling me which of these 10 foods you are starting with tomorrow. I read them and they shape what I cover next. I'll see you in the next one.